the stuff from the Structure Plus.
All it did was adopt the triangles,
Oh, okay.
which is a big thing. Was a big thing.
No, no, it adopted the reusable building materials,
Reusable building materials.
where you could like um, cancel, like you could pull down your building material and like get your resources back.
Only for as long as the server allowed you to. So the server, I had to set server settings.
Right, right, but
to set how long that was. Structures Plus, an S Plus structure you can pick up anytime, anywhere, for any reason.
That's right. Essentially, that's the same thing, though.
No, but originally Arc had the ability within a couple of seconds. Like it's always had that. It was like 10 seconds.
Yeah, it was really short. Of like,
and on the server we were playing on, I went in and specifically modified that to like 2 minutes.
Right. That was something that got added. Like you couldn't used to be able to do that.
What, the first time we played, you could pick it up if you misplaced it.
No. Yes, after like up to 10 seconds, which was pretty much useless. It was good if you were like, oh shit, that's wrong.
Right.
Not like build. Oh no, that went wrong. Like,
right.
So we set it when they did the structure update, which was the last time I played. When it was that got released, you could change that, and we set it to just be like.
I set it to like 2 minutes.
2 to 5 minutes or something, because we had talked about like we both agreed that we don't want it to be like, oh, just forever you get all your building, but like in a reasonable time frame if you're trying to build stuff and you're like, it didn't really work out right to tear it down. And my point is you could, if you want, set that number really large and essentially be the same thing.
But there's a lot of other stuff. It changes the storage capacity of a lot of things, adds just quality of life things, like in things like the cooking pot, it'll actually have recipes for like all of the different colors of dye and stuff, so that like you can see like what you need to like make that one particular thing, instead of having to go to external references and like, get all of that kind of stuff.
That's really nice.
Increase
3, 2, 1. What's going on, everyone? It's Ash on Comics Storytime Live. It's episode 59. Can you believe 59 episodes of this? That's retarded. I'm not allowed to say retarded, so hopefully YouTube censors don't cancel me and do whatever they do. Looks like Eric Breen is first. Holy shit. What's going on, Eric? Good to see you, buddy. I guess you haven't been first in a long time. Rusty is in the house. Chris Barker. Who else? Miranya's here too. Tahilam. Oh, good crowd. Good to see you. Hope everyone's having a good day, reading some good comics. Hopefully not getting too soured by, what's going on in the real world. Just getting some escapism. Rusty says open mic. Yeah, I had open mic in the beginning there. Talking about some video games and running some servers. You probably heard that. Ronnie says, Breen, you must stay and listen to story time. I don't know. That's a big task for Eric. He's an old guy. He's probably falling asleep. No Milky Ways, buddy. That'll just make you have a sugar crash. Ronnie says more chair dancing music for me. I just remembered that song that I played just now. That's the opening. It's called "The Massacre" by Phantom Inc. I totally forgot that I discovered that music on another YouTube channel. I forget who it was though. I can't remember. And at the end of every video, the video would just cut and then go to that music and credits. And I was just like, I just love that song. I was like, this is really just, I don't know, there's something addictive to it. And that's how I discovered it. I went and looked it up because he put in his, in the description box of his, he gave credit to who did the music and everything. And I was like, who is this? So I went and found it. And that's how I discovered it. And I totally didn't remember that until just recently. I knew where I got the music. I just was like, oh, you know what? That's not someone else's music. I mean, he was using it from that other guy too. But I don't know why I'm going off on this. Tehillim says, Eric Breen being first, he should win a live stream with Hash on Comics doing Gabby Rivera, America Chavez. I would be down for that. Let's see. Eric says, can't Tehillim. My Spanglish is rusty. Well, that's okay, because Gabby Rivera's is rusty too. And then Ash, I thought this was bedtime with bats. Oh my goodness. Those were good times. That was the Ash and Bat show, and that was fun. I do miss the times. Sadly, Bats and I were not the perfect dance partners. So things didn't work out as well as I had wished them to be. But I tried to recreate the magic. No one else wants to restart it, so it's probably my fault. I haven't got any good requests from you guys lately, so you're leaving it up to me to provide the content. I'm kind of hoping you guys will, I don't know, introduce me to something that I could bring forth and read. But we're doing currently Die. What are you guys thinking of that so far? If you guys have been listening, that was a book that got a ton of hype when it came out. You don't really hear anyone talking about that book anymore today, which is really weird. Well, I guess it's not really weird. I guess that happens a lot. Things get really, oh my God, this is the greatest thing ever. And then, a few months later, people have moved on to something else. So just kind of looking for some feedback. Unfortunately, the YouTube and doing conversations this way is a little difficult because there's like that 8-second delay. I really should try the low latency stream sometime, because apparently that makes the
the chat interaction much faster. So if you hear anything in the background, my roommate's still up. So that's the way that works. No thoughts. I'm losing viewers as we talk. Die is not something I'd search out, but it's interesting, says Maranya. Yeah, I think it's interesting too, and I do like the art quite a bit. So that's keeping me going. I don't. It is kind of what I expected, but not what I expected. What about the Batman and Superman books that we've been doing? Those digitals. I've been enjoying those. Sorry if I'm unprofessionally drinking on the mic. That's one of my shticks there. Eric says, need some help here, people. I can't read comics, ignore Ash, and comment at the same time. Yeah. So, anyways, let's see. I guess we could just get straight over to the comics. I wonder if there's any sales going on in Comixology. Do any of you guys get digital books? Is that your thing? Or are you just a physical person? You're just like, I don't want that digital crap in my life. My thought on digital is I like it as a good supplement to physical books. I think digital makes for good reading copies, especially if you have a large physical collection that's taking up a ton of space. You can have a huge digital collection and it takes no space. And oftentimes you can find really good deals. For example, here you can get the entire White Knight for $5. When that was originally $4 an issue, $5 an issue, times 8 issues, so that'd be $40 if you buy all the issues. And then you can be crazy like me. I bought both covers of Curse of the White Knight because I'm so enamored with this series. I hate thinking about the money that I spent on this. But that goes to show you what comic fans will pay for a really good product. And these companies, if they just knew. Ronnie says, it's sad when the digital of the big two of the Trinity are better than the floppies of the racks. Ooh. Yeah, I will say, though, that the Batman books are pretty good, Maranya. Even the Joker War stuff that's going on, which I rolled my eyes at when it was announced, like, oh, Joker War, it's actually playing off pretty well. And I think Tomasi and Tynan on Detective and Batman, respectively, are both working well together to keep their books their own, but also with this kind of like collaborative narrative that I believe is all orchestrated by James Tynan. It's Joker, which is way overdone for my taste, but it's just a fun story. They're telling it's a very fun story. It's kind of an action-oriented, kind of bombastic Batman story. It's almost like Michael Bay did Batman, but I don't necessarily think there's anything wrong with that. There's been some good detective stuff, some good mystery, some thrills, some reveals, new characters introduced, which is always exciting, even if the characters turn out to be duds. It's always exciting for the possibility of what the characters could be, and sometimes, so every once in a while, those characters stick, and then you get a popular new character, and then those popular characters get overdone and turned to trash because these comic companies don't know when to say when. And they get Harley Quinn. Let's see. Chris says, Ash, wokeness has taken over. There's only one certainty. Listen to music. I don't know about that. Wokeness has taken over. Well, I mean, wokeness is in music too, so I'm not sure about that. And I think the good writers, I think the people who are good, really good artists, don't rely. I think wokeness is a tool, not even a tool. I think it's it's a refuge for the talentless, or the ones that are just low skill that don't want to develop their talent. And so they go to this woke island, like, look at me, I'm here. But the ones that are really good, the ones that just care, maybe they're not even the most established, but they believe in the craft and the medium. You don't see them resorting to that, right? I don't see Robert Venditti doing any woke stuff. None. Sean Gordon Murphy really isn't doing any woke stuff. All my favorite creators, Tomasi, I don't see really doing woke stuff. Tomasi is a classic type of comic writer. James Tynion is a new guy. He's a young blood. But I see him kind of mostly avoiding that too. He does feel kind of modern. He does feel kind of millennial, if you will, in his style of writing. But I don't see him doing the woke stuff. I see him just trying to keep his head down. I don't think that's the case. And then, of course, there's a lot of old school classic writers still doing stuff that I cling to, like Frank Miller. Frank Miller to me is like, he's like Pink Floyd. Pink Floyd's one of my favorite bands, and I say that because, like Pink Floyd, at the end they sort of lost what they were, and that last album that Pink Floyd did, it wasn't terrible. It was Pink. Nothing can be terrible as long as Dave Gilmour's on guitar, but like it had no vocals. Or it actually had one song with vocals, but it was just, it was there. It's like, this isn't the prime time stuff. Same with Frank Miller. He's just not prime. But if you're a fan of that, you hold on to whatever little fragments remain with these guys. Oh, and then you got, the independent stuff. Jeez, you want to talk about wokeness in comics, and just, it's not true. Like, go with Sagi Ojimbo. It's a classic, wonderful, like, just a piece of art that's going over 35 years strong now. As good today as it was 35 years ago. It's the consistency. I think it goes underappreciated because, believe it or not, I think people do want woke stuff. Not me. I think there are people that do. Eric says, I still haven't read Curse of the White Knight 3 through 8 yet. Well, that's pretty terrible. 4 is really good. Did you watch my videos on those? Because you usually watch most of my videos, Eric. That spoiled that stuff for you. But you probably forgot by now. Anyway, so I guess it's unspoiled. I recommend Curse of the White Knight. A lot of people, fault it for not being as good as the original, but come on. I don't subscribe to that idea. Like, not everything can always be as good. People think Dark Knight 2 is one of the epitomes of that. It's just, people dark. I was talking to my buddy, my neighbor, about Dark Knight 2, and he really likes it too, which I was glad for. And it's one of those books that gets such a bad rap, and it's because the original was Dark Knight Returns. Alan Moore was smart to never do a Watchmen 2 because it would never, you just can't. Sometimes you just can't go back to the well. And Frank Miller's like, I don't care, I'm going back to the well. And he told this other story, and I love it. I love Dark Knight 2. And, but it's not as good as Dark Knight 1. And for me, I was fine with that because I'll take 75%, of that. It's so good that Dark Knight 2 was still better than most things coming out that time. But I digress. Man, if you want non-wokeness, just go read some old school Frank Miller. That dude, Frank Miller puts hair on your chest. Go read some Sin City. I don't even think you could print his stuff. Do you think Dark Horse would print a book called Bruise, Broads, and Bullets? That'd just be like, did you know that your title of your book has broads in it? That's like really problematic. Ryuk says, I got a stack of floppies yesterday, mainly Boom Studios comics. Power Rangers series is still kick-ass. I'm very happy for Power Rangers fans. Everything I hear about the Power Rangers stuff. Power Rangers fans love it. I don't think I've heard a single Power Rangers person. I'm not really a Power Rangers person. That's kind of like previous, that's the following generations. But that's cool. Not everything needs to be for me. And everyone seems to be really excited, especially when what's her name got off the book. And now it seems like, what's his name? Ryan Parrott has taken over. And it's just, the popularity is just, snowballed. So that's awesome. I need a few issues of the Joker War, and I'll honestly wait for I read a few issues of Joker War and honestly wait for the trade. I did get the Red Hood tie-in. Okay, that's fair enough. I don't think Joker War is anything fantastic that if you're not already getting Batman, that this should make you start getting Batman. In my opinion, if you're not getting Batman, you're not really a big Batman person anyway. But my thoughts are, if you are a Batman person, you probably are getting Batman, and Joker War is not really making you unhappy as a Batman fan, right? And that's kind of the way I look at it, right? I'm a Batman fan. I like buying Batman comics, and I want to be entertained every month, now twice a month. Sorry, with both books, it's 4 times a month. Every time I buy my Batman books. And Joker War has been doing that, so that's all I can ask for. Some people claim things are woke just at the sight of a strong female character and minority character these days. It's chasing ghosts for clicks in a lot of cases. Yes and no. Yes, there is a lot of wokeness out there. And I think what's happening is wokeness is becoming so normalized that I think a lot of people are becoming very acceptant of it. Now it's like, that's just the way it is. And so when people go off and rattle, oh my God, I'm tired of that wokeness, I think people are getting kind of annoyed at it being called woke now. Whereas 2 years ago, we would have pointed out, that's so woke. People would have been like, yeah, you're right. And now we're just so accepting of it. Like, shut up. Stop talking about it. It's kind of like the riots. Like, no one wants to hear me talk about the riots anymore. And I'm like, it's really sad that we're so normalizing the most violent rioting in American history that it's just like, it's no big deal. Like, oh, okay, I guess we'll move on. That's what I see. I also see wokeness being applied incorrectly. Every time I see an ad for that Golden Child, that Frank Miller Dark Knight Returns, the Golden Child, is every time they have that blurb on it, it's like, it's woke. And I'm like, literally they advertise that it's woke. And I was like, this book's not woke. Frank Miller doesn't write woke anything. He writes like womenizing men who like prostitutes. they like fighting. That's what he does. But they see it's like, oh, because it's got a girl Batman or whatever, it's woke. Anyways, Derek says, oh, for fuck's sakes, here we go again with the Frank Miller slurp fest. And it could be worse. I could be a Gabby Rivera slurp fest. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Music is music, Ash, regardless of subject matter. All that really matters is if you enjoy it. Well, I disagree. You could say that same statement to any artistic medium. Books are books, regardless of the subject matter. All it really matters is if you enjoy it. Comics are comics. All that matters is the subject matter, as long as you enjoy it. Movies are movies, right? And so on. Plays are plays. Poems are poems. Pictures, illustrations are illustrations. Paintings are... You could apply that. No, I disagree with that. I'm sorry, Christopher. I don't think that all that really matters is if you enjoy it. I don't like subversive, which is really weird because art is kind of in its core subversive. So maybe my problem is I don't like it being used for destructive counterculture that's harmful to society. So maybe I'm just prejudiced on that. Maybe I'm okay with it when art is used to be subversive to virtue and wholesome goodness. Like I'm like, yay. And then when it's used for vice and and depravity and things like that. I'm like, no. But at its core, I guess it's always kind of does that. Finished Immortal Man number 6. Can't wait for issue 7, says Eric Breen. Too soon, buddy. Too soon. My big problem with Tynion, Ryuk, it's James Tynion the Fourth, is too much right for the trade, but I enjoy his stories, and that's all that matters. I kind of agree with you. I mean, but on the other hand, I think that's the modern thing. I think that's the mandate of modern comics and editorial. I think DC Comics wants Tynion writing the way that he does. And to be fair, I don't necessarily think writing for a trade is a bad thing, right? My favorite comic of all time is Batman Year One. And Batman Year One was absolutely, unequivocally written for the trade. It is 4 issues of one story that was split up. It really should have been a graphic novel. And when you do that, writing for the trade is essentially that, writing a graphic novel and then cutting it into pieces so you could distribute it as floppies. Floppies were never meant to be that way. Floppies were used to be meant to be like each one was self-contained. You could pick up any floppy and read it, and you would get the story that you needed. It would support itself. Writing for the trade is taking any original graphic novel you've read and just cut it up and say, nope, this. I don't think that's a bad thing. Now, what is a bad thing, and what writing for the trade typically refers to, the connotation, is decompression, right? Because, like, I'm going to use Bendis because he's my favorite whipping boy as an example. Writing for the trade, the problem isn't that Bendis writes for the trade. The problem is that Bendis decompresses a single issue of a comic book into a trade paperback's worth of story. That's how he writes for the trade, but it's a completely different concept. And I think the term writing for the trade gets a bad rap because there's 2 ways you can interpret that. And hopefully I made sense about my views on that subject. And Tynion is the former, and Bendis is the latter. I don't accept wokeness, says Maranya, but it's often used when the stories would have been lauded in the past for their treatment of women and minorities, and it's wrong. I'm not sure I know how to interpret that. I think what I'm understanding you to say is that today, if a story treats a woman right and doesn't degrade her and just treats her like a human being and shows that she can be strong and so forth, that today's society overreacts and says, oh, that's woke, when it really is just, no, that's doing what we should be doing all along. I don't know if I'm interpreting you correctly, Marani. I don't know if I would disagree with that. I don't think that happens very much, though. But maybe you're right. Maybe that's why Dark Knight Returns, The Golden Child, DC advertises that as a woke comic when it's not. Frank Miller's been writing women like that since the 80s. Let's look at Elektra. Frank Miller is the original, female support. It was so funny when Frank Miller, for a little while, a couple years back, the SJW crowd was trying to, label Frank Miller as this big misogynist and all this and that. I'm like, you do understand, he's created some of the most modern, women, popular female characters. They always kick, Frank Miller is, the furthest from a misogynist. He's very much a gender stereotype, a role type, which, of course, the woke brigade hate. People in gender roles is the devil. Frank Miller is very much not like that, and I tend to agree with that viewpoint. His male viewpoint very much matches my own, in the sense that men and women are different, and they can both be strong and not always the same way. You don't have to. Not all strength are the same things. Sometimes you can be strength of mind. Sometimes you can be strength of body. Sometimes you can be strength of emotion. And those are all different strengths and different traits. And if you had 3 different people, one was the emotionally the strongest, one was the mentally the strongest, one was physically the strongest, who's actually the strongest? I don't know. They're just different. But in woke culture, if you write a female that's not all 3, then you're a bigot. And that's the problem. I just saw Eric Green, Sean Gordon Miller's Curse of the Golden Child. Shut up, Eric. In my day, we called the 4-part story, Now Get Off My Lawn. We did call that a 4-part story because trades weren't a thing. That's why I say writing for the trade really doesn't exist in the way people think. Dave Asanowicz is in the house. What's up, Dave? He says, why am I still awake? Because you want to be watching Ash. Speaking of watching Ash, why does it say my stream is still coming on? You guys got to tell me about these things. If you, all the time, you can make fun of me for so many things. You don't take the opportunity, especially Eric. That's really, really bad form, Eric. Lord is here. He says hi. Ed says yo. Good to see you guys. Doug Johnson says wokeness culture has got to be passing fad, right? I can't imagine anyone really buying into it anymore when it's no longer considered to be cool. It's a good point, Doug. Very good point. I believe it's going to be a generational thing. I don't know if it's a passing fad. I liken woke culture, and I hope I'm right, to hippie culture. Hippies had children. Those children became teenagers and looked at their parents and were like, something's wrong with you. I don't want to be like you. And those hippies, children, begat conservatism. And kids grew up saying, I don't want to be a hippie weirdo like my parents. They recognized the wrongness, and so they rebelled. And I think we're in a similar phase like that, where the millennial woke brigade is now having kids, and these kids are growing up and they're just being like, what is wrong with my parents? This wokeness is stupid. And they're going to get it out of their system, and they're going to grow up and they're going to reject it all, and the pendulum's going to swing the other way. Now, I don't know how much it's going to swing, because it's not just a matter of right and left. It's really society as a whole, Western society, I should clarify. And I think we're just becoming this very soft, decadent society, very self-absorbed. I think the era of social media and internet is really causing disconnect between people, which is ironic, because here you guys are all sitting with me and we're talking online and we are connecting, and these things are possible when they weren't. But I think a lot of people are becoming used to not interacting face to face with others. Our sense of physical community is being erased, and everyone is kind of like a phantom stranger. And now, because we're social beings, we crave social interaction. And so things like this, where we're in a group hanging out, we're talking, I think will always continue to exist, because that fills that void, but it doesn't completely fill that void, right? When you know someone, right? When you know their kids, and when you help raise them, and you're involved in their life more than just, hey, I went onto a YouTube channel and listened to this guy talk. There's a big difference in the connectivity. And that we don't have that as a society. We don't give a shit about people anymore. And no matter our values, be it whether, our political values, right or left, I think we're getting very desensitized, where we go on, we see YouTube videos of people getting shot and beat up and all this stuff. And we're like, that's horrible. But you get to see that enough, and you're just like, yeah, I've seen that a lot. It just happens. And we stop. We care, but we don't care the way we would if, like, that was our good friend that we grew up with since being a child, or, that was that was my friend's kid. Like I like changed their diapers when they were a baby, and now I'm seeing like you have a different level of connection that I think we're losing as a society. I think it's a dangerous thing. Let's see. Chris says, I see a shift in the mainstream. Soon geek culture will no longer be cool. Soon geek culture will no longer be cool. Well, that'll just go back to what geek culture used to be before it became cool. I was a geek well before it was cool. Now it's kind of like this mainstream thing, and maybe that's a good thing. Jimmy says, what's up, everyone? Comic Quirks is in the house. Hey, Jimmy. Let's see. Eric says, did your car get fixed? Oh, I didn't know it was something wrong. I hope it did. Ed says, beatniks are greater than hippies. Okay. Eric says, Jimmy heard from Jason Aaron today. That's almost as cool as knowing Ash. Wow. That was... Why you gotta hurt me like that, buddy? See, I treat people behind the screen names like it's someone sitting across from me. Sadly, most people treat online as pixels on the screen. That's a very good point, Maranya, and I don't doubt you. But I believe the reason why you do that is because you grew up in a world where people were real people, not behind a screen. You understand that world, and so even as society changes, you're still attached to that. I am too, right? I grew up where there was no internet. I lived in a time when there wasn't internet. So I understand that physical connection. What I'm saying though is there's people today who were not alive when 9/11 happened. These people that are out in the street, right? They're burning the towns down and stuff like that, or they're just being on 9/11 happened before. Think about that. They don't remember the last time we went into space, because even though we went into space during their lifetime, they were probably like 5 years old, right? We just now put a person into space. It was a 12-year gap, and usually we were doing it every couple of years. I mean, think about this. These young kids, this next generation that's growing up, see the world, at least the Western society, way different than you and I. They have no concept of, they don't even understand broadcast TV. I mean, my buddy, he's got 2 kids, and I help take care of them from time to time, and I'm involved in their lives. And it's just interesting to have some of these conversations, and things will come up, and we're talking about television, and they understand like YouTube and Netflix. They understand that to hit a button, get my show that I want, but they don't understand like something's coming on TV and it's going to be shown at a certain time, or this is being broadcast live. The term broadcast is like not in their lexicon. Like it's really weird how their perception of the world, it's not so much different. It sees it from a different angle. And the rest of us don't really understand that until we confront, and our 2 worlds collide, and we see, oh yeah, I guess you wouldn't understand this. I guess the things we take for granted. It's very interesting. Eric says, #Ash is why are you making fun of me? Why are you trying to hurt me, buddy? I don't know what I did to you. We are pixels. Dan Slott said so. Well, if Dan Slott said, then it must be true. Or roaches. Mark Wade said so. Oh no. We are pixel roaches. Oh, that one's going to go down in the books. Good one, Branya. So, comic books. Nothing super exciting today. It's in the world of digital sales. So we'll get right on to stories. Ed Brewer, I'd like to see a kid today read a TV guide. Yeah, I guess. Broadcast is canceled. It is disrespectful to women. Everything is disrespectful to women. Everything. That's why feminists hate each other. I'm drinking iced tea tonight. Unsweetened, plain, fresh brewed, black tea. That's my jam. Super ice cold. I don't know what you guys are drinking. Hope you get a nice, good beverage. Die is not the first comic, so I don't know why I popped this one up. I went straight to the end. What are we reading? Oh, yeah. Superman. Dum, ba-dum, bum, 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 bum. Going through the digital firsts of Superman, written by our man, Robert Venditti. Guy writes comics like no one else. I cannot wait. Well, I can, because it means the end of Hawkman. That's really still sad to me. But I'm looking forward to whatever big mainstream, big book that he gets on next. He said whatever the book is, the reason why he left Justice League was he said he got offered to write not his dream job. I think he said like his dream character. And so I don't know what or his dream title. I forget how he worded it. So the speculation is like, well, what would Robert Venditti like dream of writing? Like, what would be the title of his choice if he could pick any comic to write? And so Superman was my first thing. I was like, oh, is he going to write Superman? Like, that would be... But Bendis is locked into Superman. But then JSA, DC's been toying around JSA for a while. And it's like, ooh, is he going to write JSA? So if he writes either of those, I'd be very excited. However, I don't know if I want to see him writing Superman in a world where Bendis is still on Superman, because... it'll be like he'll have to write with one hand tied behind his back, and I think that's not what I want to see. But we do get to see him writing these digital firsts, and while these aren't what I would expect from a normal run, because these are meant to be sort of like little filler backstory type things, they do give us a taste of how Venditti thinks as a writer, and he always has like messages to say. His books just aren't silly nonsense, even though they can on the surface feel that way. There's a very clever story, and if you guys were here on that night where we did the one with was it Crixus the Champion, and it just on the surface we thought it was going to be like just like, oh look, it's Superman slugging it out with this guy, and by the end of it turned out to be a story of what it really means to be a hero. And I'm just super impressed. I was like, wow, this whole story seemed like nonsense. And he tied it up perfectly at the end. And that's an example of one of the things I love about Venditti. So let's get on with this book for the night. He says, share the screen. Yeah, you stupid chump. Share it. Here we go. Sorry about that. Thank you, Ed. I appreciate you. Ronnie says cold water for me. Yeah, I like cold water as long as it's like good purified water. I like to see kids today deal with a collect call. Yeah, good luck. If you couldn't make one anyway, where can you find a phone? Right? Think about it. There's no pay phones anymore. And I don't think you can do collect calls on a cell phone because you can't get to an operator. So I don't even know. I wouldn't know how to do a collect call today, to be fair. Jimmy wants Venditti on JSA as well. I would be happy with that. Assuming we get a JSA book. If we don't get a JSA book, I wouldn't be upset with Superman, especially if that's his dream thing. That's what I'm interested to see. I want to see Venditti do the book that he wants to do. Not necessarily the book that DC was like, here, write this. All right, here we go. Before Eric falls asleep. Are you asleep already, Eric? The Daily Planet Building. Lois is where? You don't have to do this, Miss Lane. It is what I do. He sent a message. He wants her to write his story. Only her. And you okayed it? Central City PD flew him in. Our DA cut a deal to clear some cases here in Metropolis. There will be 2 officers with you at all times, plus motorcycle escorts. I'll be fine, Al. I owe you one. You're married to her, Kent. Ever have any luck telling her no? But enough. It's an interview. She can handle herself. Even if it is the prankster. Who Pranks the Prankster? By Robert Venditti. Artist by David LaFuente. This is not a guy I'm familiar with. That's another interesting thing about these digital first books is that you get to see some possibly up and coming artists. I tend to only buy A-list titles, and so it's always the big name artists, which is cool, is what I want. But it's also kind of nice to see like these new guys, who might be the next Todd McFarlane, where these people come up. They come up from somewhere. Who is she? What's she doing here? No one's in the mood for your gags, Loomis. Enjoy the ride to the country. No, really, I'm... Clung. Straight through, no stops. Got a very manga feel to it in the style. Not surprising, since manga is so popular these days. A lot of young artists growing up are probably, drawing manga more than they are Western comics. This isn't right. You're not supposed to be here. That isn't what your note said. Note? I didn't send any note. I don't even know who you are. I've got it right here. It has the time of your transfer and says you have a story only Lois Lane can write. You're Lois Lane? Wait. I got a note too. On the same paper. What did yours say? Dispatch, send more units. We need help now. Gotcha. Well, bam! Wow, that's an elaborate trick. Like someone installed a giant hammer in the underpass and like no one noticed. It's comics. Deet, deet. Kaboom! Might have overdone it with the hammer. Sorry, P. Who's the mark? Lois Lane. The Lois Lane? She isn't part of the plan. How? Can't worry about that now. The trick is on. Take her, in case we need to bargain. Transport to base. Prankster escaped. He has a hostage. Fortunately, her husband is Superman. Lois. Where are you? The Marble Run is live, P. What a gag. Just keep your eyes on Lane. Ah, she's out like an exploding cigar. You want I should pop her? Not yet. Somebody's trying to spoil my bit. Killing her might be what they want. Whoever they is. Wait until after we make our getaway. Crunch. That was kind of cool. I wish it was the sequence was done better, but Superman just floating there and the marble just kind of goes through him and shatters. That's kind of neat. Yellow Bowler is busted. Silver Killjoy can't take a joke. Step on it. We're gonna crash. Zoom. Thank you, Superman. There goes Biggie Blue. Everything's going topsy-turvy. One of you two must have tipped off Lane. Who two? Us two. Broom. Crash. We lost Red Roller. You think we blew the escape? One of you is the fake fly in my ice cube. You're the only crew in on it. You sent a message to Superman's pet reporter. With her in the mix, you knew Superman would pull out all the stops. Bunk. Crack. Just teens on smartphones, not even paying attention. That would be today. Splash. Green Giant is sunk. That's all of them. Who are you working with? Someone trying to take over my gang? We wouldn't, P. We're in the same jackpot as you. You're down there somewhere, Lois. I only told one person I was making a break. You expect me to believe she... Talk to me. Oh. I thought she'd be glad to have me back. Who, prankster? Please. How could she do this? Who? Pranks on me. It was my wife. I think I've got enough for a front page headline. Don't let her. We're here. Crunch. What would you do, boss? Nothing. Nothing? Gotcha. I was pranked by my own woman. Prison is the only home I got. Why didn't you tell me you were interviewing Prankster? I didn't not tell you. The tip came in. I had to move. You don't tell me every time you fight an alien invasion or whatever. That's different. You like to think it is. We both help the way we know how. That comes with risks. Sometimes the risks affect you or me. Sometimes they affect us. The only difference is you wear your underwear outside your clothes. Low blow. Sorry. Speaking of underwear, Prankster wears polka dot boxers. I wish I didn't know that. Speaking of clothes, I lost my suit again. Let me explain the concept of financial risks again. Next, the Menace of Metallo. Very nice. Very nice. Get that reference? I think I do that. I think I do that impression okay. Let me know. See who the first person who gets that reference in the chat. I'm going to buy the next Superman of tomorrow. Issue 14. I hope you guys are enjoying these. I'm buying them for you guys to read them in there. And if you do, that's my phone. If you do, go check them out. They're like less than $1. You guys can have your own books. This is why I was asking about the digitals before. Let's see. Eric says, Zzz. He's sleeping. He doesn't like Venditti Superman. He only likes woke Gabby Rivera books. These digitals are testing out the new artist, it seems. It could be, Marani. I do think that's the case. Fahrenheit. Mr. Fahrenheit, is it? Sorry, let me talk straight. Mr. Fahrenheit, welcome. He says Borat, which is absolutely correct. That's a funny movie. Sacha Baron Cohen used to be really funny. Then he went off the deep end. I don't know what happened to that guy. Let's see. I love the interplay with Lois, Clark, Superman. I do too, Marania. I do too. He does a really good job. And I really like the running gag about the clothes. I think that's a cool little trademark. I haven't seen any other writers use that, so I could be wrong, and if I am, let me know. But I feel like that's a Venditti thing. Eric says, if Bendis wrote that exchange about the underwear, we would be crushing him. Just saying. No, if Bendis wrote that exchange about the underwear, that would be like a whole page of dialogue, and we'd be crushing him because it would be written as if it was self-impressed, and look at how funny we are telling these dumb jokes. Venditti can write it in like 2 word balloons and then move on, and you get a funny little thing, and if you didn't like it, you just kind of go, and move on. Bendis, you can't, because it just over and over. It's nonstop, that dialogue. That's why he gets crushed. Do you like Donny Cates as a writer, says Mr. Fahrenheit? I do. For the most part, I do. I don't think he's a perfect writer. I think he's got a lot of development, which I hope he does. But he turned Venom into a character that is, well, I mean, it's one of the only Marvel books worth buying, but he turned Venom into an actual real 3-dimensional character to care about. And he made the symbiote into something special. He brings a lot of great ideas. They don't always hit, they're not always hits. Donnie's definitely written his share of books that people like to forget about, like The Death of the Inhumans and, what was it, that Marvel Knights stuff? Everyone for just that was like, no, done. But his Thanos Wins story was great. Cosmic Ghost Rider was goofy as hell, but somehow he managed to pull that off. Like I said, Venom is a very, as far as an ongoing comic is considered, ongoing mainstream superhero books, Venom has been some of the best, like, personal drama and character development of the big 2 period. And he took a character that didn't really have anything, he's just, whether it's the symbiote, which has been way overdone, or Eddie Brock, who's just an asshole, like 2 things you just are inclined not to like, and he made him worth liking. His take on Silver Surfer was fantastic. He made Silver Surfer a hero again, which I love. Like, I got so sick of the trope that was kind of getting attached to Silver Surfer, was that he's just a big whiny baby. He's always whining. Which there was some merit to that because Marvel was doing that and the bad writers didn't know what to do. But Silver Surfer is, in my opinion, Silver Surfer is like Marvel's version of Superman. Yes, I know the aesthetic is very different. He doesn't look like Superman, and some people would say, no, Ash Sentinel or Hyperion, which, yes, those 2 match the aesthetic. Obviously, Sentinel, actually, I think Hyperion's even closer in the actual origin. But Silver Surfer, from a mental standpoint, from who he is as a character, he's just an aspirational hero that comes from a place of goodness, just like Superman. He didn't have to watch his parents die and then say, oh, now I'm going to be a hero, right? He didn't have to see his uncle die and then say, oh, great power comes, I should have stopped this. He didn't have to get trapped in a cave and then have to build his own suit of armor to realize, you know what, maybe I should stop bad guys. he was like Superman, who was just like, I need to help people, and I am powerful, and I'm in a world of humans, and I know that there's good in them. I just need to help them when they don't have the power to help themselves. Anyways, I'm went way off the boat on that. But he brought that back. Let's see. Is his Thor worth reading? Yeah, I think so. It is. It's not my favorite, and I think my problem with the Thor book isn't so much his writing, it's that Donnie is having to work with the product that the previous previous creator developed Thor into. So he's having to pick up from a space that Thor, in my opinion, is not the best spot. So, but he does it right from book one, like establishes we're going in a good direction. So I was a person, like I'm an old school Thor fan back from the 80s, Walt Simonson. That's my who I would call like premier, top creator for Thor. That's the bar for me. So I'm predisposed to like Thor, but what Thor has been in the past decade, I've not cared one iota for. I won't read Thor. And then Donny Cates got me back. So I guess take that as you will. Ronnie says, I'd personally like to see some of the core characters that got worldwide recognition in the MCU get decent writers and artists, not just third, fourth tier, fifth tier writers. Yeah, I can understand that, Marania. Unfortunately, Marvel doesn't have any of those, except for, they got Donny Cates and, there's only two writers I read at Marvel, Donny Cates and, I'm blanking out, Chip Zdarsky. So, I think Chip Zdarsky is probably one of the best writers in all of mainstream comics. So they have him. He seems capable of writing 2 books. You've got Donny Cates, who's been able to write multiple books, but it also very much shows every time he starts stretching himself thin that his stuff kind of gets weaker. You saw with his Guardians of the Galaxy, when he was writing Guardians, Venom, what else was he writing? Inhumans. Like he was on like 4 different books at one point. His stuff was getting kind of, But when Donnie's on 2 books at most, it seems really, really strong. So that gives you 4 possible titles. I guess you could put those 2 guys on the top books. I wouldn't mind that per se, because that's great. But at the same time, whenever you take a good talent and put them on a book, you got to pull them off of whatever they're doing, right? So let's hypothetically, let's just say that Robert Venditti is going to go on Superman. That's going to make a lot of Superman fans happy, but I'll tell you what, I'd rather him stay on Hawkman personally. I guess I'm resigned to the way things are with Superman. Like, I'm not buying Superman. I'm like, whatever. I want to like Superman. I would love, see it, but I don't. If you're telling me you got to cancel Hawkman so he can be on Superman, it's like, do I want to cancel Daredevil so that Chip Zdarsky can do something else? No, not really. I'm quite happy that Daredevil is might be the best book of the big 2, especially with Hawkman going away. So do I want that canceled? That's tough. It's really tough when you talk about that. But you are right. The big titles need to have better talent put to them. There's no Dan Slott on Fantastic Four and Iron Man, and Spencer on Amazing Spider-Man. It's just, I want to face palm. I have to hold my hand back. I'm gonna smash my face. Like, it's just, what are you thinking? But that's what all Marvel has, because Marvel dug themselves in the hole over the past 20 years of helping their revenue, not by building sales, but by cutting costs. And unfortunately, they've cut costs so much that they can't afford to do anything anymore except put D-list writers and artists on stuff. They just don't have a budget to do anything, and it sucks. Let's see. Anyone saw a new Superman cartoon movie? It had Lobo. Parasite blew him up. Said you bastich. I haven't seen it. It's a Dragon Ball's comment. I have not seen it. I've heard some people say it's pretty good. I'm not a real big cartoon guy. Like, it's not entirely true. I love old school classic funny cartoons. I'm a big Ren and Stimpy fan. But as far as like comic book, I just they're never as good as the comics unless the comics are shitty. And in that case, then you just, like I don't understand, like the cartoons to me are like a step backwards. And when they're a step forwards, it's because the comics are shitty. And in that case, I just, you got a better version of a shitty comic. Like, I don't know. I'm kind of negative and jaded in regards to those. But if someone, told me, hey, this one's really good, you got to see it, then I would give it a chance. I still really want to see Mask of the Phantasm because I've pretty much the consensus is that's one of the best Batman movies ever made, animated or not. So I'm like, okay, let's check that out. Ash reads Daniel Kibblesmith. Damn you, Breen. One of these days. Dragon Ball Talk says, I'm not a fan of Donny Cates or anyone right now. I like Jeff Loeb, Ed McGuinness. Okay. Well, Dragon Ball, have you really given any of these people a chance that you say you're not a fan of? Because some of the stuff that's out right now is some of the best I've ever seen. And I'll put the current Hawkman, Robert Venditti's Hawkman run against any run in history. It's that good. I'll put, the current Daredevil run, I can't put up against any Daredevil run because Daredevil's had one of the best runs in history with Frank Miller. But you remove the Frank Miller Daredevil, and if you just remove that, I put the current Chip Zdarsky Daredevil run against any Daredevil run other than that. Who else is doing really fantastic stuff? Well, Donny Cates is Venom. It's the best Venom I've ever read, which not saying much, but hey. Marvel had no expectations for Life Story. That's why Chip got the assignment. That's another book. Spider-Man Life Story. I'm gonna make the statement. Spider-Man Life Story is the best Marvel story, event, whatever you want to call it, like in 20 years. Zach, our boy Zach, Comics Matter or Diversity in Comics, whatever you know him as, Richard C. Meyer. He used to make this comment all the time about, previous to the new millennium, you used to talk about classic iconic stories all the time, right? You talk about, there's all sorts of ones in the X-Men, but you talk about great Batman stories, the Killing Joke, Batman Year One. You talk about things like Dark Knight Returns. You've got things like Watchmen, which transcended comics. You've got Neil Gaiman's Sandman run, which again transcended comics. You've got Crisis on Infinite Earths. You got Marvel's Infinity Gauntlet. There was all these iconic stories that were going to live on. We knew that these, 20 years from now, people were still going to be talking about these books because they were so great. And then over the past 20 years, what sort of books in the past 20 years stand up against that company? Nothing. Not by the big two. They're not producing stuff like that. And it's certainly not at Marvel until Spider-Man Life Story. I put that book up and I'm like, this is among the greatest mainstream comic stories, I'll put this up against whatever. It's that good. And it's a rare feat. But it's just a credit to Chip Zdarsky. And you're right. I don't think Chip would have been able to do that had Marvel known what they were going to get. They would have probably effed it up. They would have found a way to really mess it up. Eric says, "You idiot." I wish Donny Cates would be a little slower and more meticulous in his storytelling. Things get a little too ADD for my taste in his books sometimes. Okay. I don't mind that, I guess, because I grew up with old school comics. And if you go read, like, say, Chris Claremont X-Men, which is kind of my bag, there was all sorts of stuff going on. Today, we have comics that are really decompressed and slowed down, and nothing really happens in them. And I think that causes that sort of perception to be more prevalent. That's just a hypothesis I have. Ash is right about Hawkman. Mark your date on the calendar. I agreed with Ash. Oh, my God. Damn you, Eric. Mr. Fahrenheit says Al Ewing. I don't know about what that is. That's a name of a writer that I don't enjoy. Although I will admit, I did read the first issue of Mortal Hulk, and that was pretty good. But I also read Empire, and I just can't go on. I just can't. Not your boy Green. He is cool, in my opinion. What? I didn't like Thor, Black Winter, new DC Metal is so-so. Didn't like Venom's son, X-Men and Krakoa making friends with villains I dislike. Sorry, I'm negative. I like old school Contest of Champions. No, you don't got to be sorry to be negative, man. I at least not to me. I don't mind. You can mean all your opinions are your opinions, and even if I don't agree with them, it's not your boat. I do think X-Men and Krakoa, the current stuff is garbage. I haven't read Metal yet. I'm kind of waiting for the trade on that. You didn't like Venom's son. That's your, I guess, right to do, I guess. I don't know. I thought he did a fantastic job with it. Could he have done better with it? Of course. But maybe it's because I didn't expect. Maybe it's because I read Venom and I was like, oh, it's Venom. But everyone says it's good or whatever. I'll read it. And I ended up getting this father-son story and this whole reinvention of Eddie Brock. And I was like, oh, you turned this into a character I care about now, which is important. The reason I love Spider-Man is because Peter Parker is a character I care about. And he's someone that you can look up to and want to see succeed. The problem with Eddie Brock was he was kind of the opposite of Peter Parker. He was just a degenerate asshole who wanted to hurt Peter because Peter did better than him. And he was kind of very much the equivalent of what we see today in our society with like the SJWs and wanting to cancel people and people getting upset when someone else succeeds in this, this Riri culture. And I don't mean Riri like Riri Williams. I mean like like just, oh, Donald Trump is worse than Hitler. Like, just like, why? Because he's created the best economy in generations, because he actually didn't fail. Now you're just upset. We have this society where people lash out at people that do well. And Eddie Brock was like that. He was just, Peter Parker worked hard, did his job, and Eddie was a degenerate. And when he was written as a villain, that all made sense. It worked. But then when you had to twist and turn him and be like, now he's a hero, I was like, yeah, but he's still a degenerate asshole that I hate. Donnie found a way to make you sympathize with that and found a way to make Eddie realize what was causing him to be this degenerate asshole and to give up that past and to turn his life around and be like, whoa, I was down the wrong path this whole time. And part of that is recognizing his son, which he didn't know was his son for the whole time. He thought it was his brother. Anyways, it was a powerful, moving story to me. If it wasn't for you, then it wasn't for you. Let's see. It's hard to quantify Life Story's place in the pantheon of Marvel stories due to its uniqueness, but suffice to say, it is great in its own right. I don't know if I can quantify it in the pantheon. My only statement is that it just belongs in the pantheon, right? It's like a Hall of Fame. Arguing who the Hall of Fame of the Hall of Fame it's pointless. Who's the best of the, like, just being in the Hall of Fame. That's all it is. This book is a Marvel Hall of Fame worthy entry, and it's like the first one in 20 years. So, in my opinion, and if I'm wrong, please share. Please show me what I'm missing. Because I'm reading some of the best stuff. Like Eric turned me on to Ed Brubaker's Captain America, which I'm enjoying. It's good, but it's not the greatness. It's not that level. It's like really solid, which given modern Marvel, that's huge. Like, that's all you can ask for. In fact, that's all I asked for even in great years. I just want really solid. Knowing that every once in a while you hit, if you can base hit constantly and every once in a while hit a home run, that's good. But if you're, striking out 9 times out of 10 and then hitting a home run once in a while, that's not so good. But if you're striking out 10 times out of 10 and never hitting home runs, well, that's Marvel the past 20 years. You see what I'm saying? That's my opinion. Lord says, I love Dawn of X. Okay. Dragon Ball says, who is Virus Eddie's son from the future? Who is Virus Eddie's? I haven't read the latest issue of Venom, so I feel like maybe you're asking something for that. Let's see. Lord says, I love Wolverine and Spider-Man because they are miserable. I think you're trolling me. I think you're trolling me. Eric says, I thought his son was his brother. Does Venom come in before or after Young the Restless? Shut up. Brubaker's Cap is equal to Venditti's Hawkman. Not yet, it isn't. I haven't gotten all the way through it, but I will say the first six issues is as good as Venditti's Hawkman's first 6 issues. But Venditti's Hawkman goes into like 6th gear on issue 7 through 12. And I don't see... I looked at issue 7 of the Brubaker Captain America, and they got rid of the artist and went for some crappy artist, and I'm like, ooh, this story is going to have to take a major jump forward to make up for the loss of this art. I don't know. We'll see. I'll be open-minded. It's good. I'm enjoying it. But Hawkman is it's Hawkman. It's fantastic. I'm sitting here on this page for a million years. Let's read some Die. Every time I say that word, I think of the Metallica song, which isn't really a Metallica song. It's a remake. The Die Die. Who did the original? Was I forget. It's a punk band. I used to do that intro when I would do reviews of Die Die Die. Let's see. Learn how to use the computer. Very good. Mr. Fahrenheit says, read some classics for a change. I have read classics. I read them. I don't read them all the time, but, I just read Amazing Spider-Man 298 through 300, which was, the beginnings of Venom. That was a classic. I read some classic X-Men. Man, you missed out on Days of Future Past. That was a great one. I read them, just not all the time. And like I said, if you want to suggest, here's the key. Just go through Comixology, look for the Comixology Unlimited, and if it's available on that, then I can read it, and I'll be happy to put on the consideration reading that. I'm very open to reading stuff that you guys are wanting to see. Some of the best stuff I've read actually have been suggestions. Die is okay. I like D&D, but don't play. Says Dragon Ball. Doug says the symbiotes through the hourglass. These are the venoms of our lives. That's a good one. That's a good joke. Oh man. Okay, let's get back to comics. Die, issue 3. In 1991, 6 teenagers disappeared into a fantasy role-playing game. Only 5 returned. In 2018, 5 adults are dragged back to discover the 6th still wants them to play. Dungeons and Dragons. Before I came here, I used to think the dungeon didn't make any sense. Who goes to a dungeon voluntarily? Dungeons have one purpose, to keep people captive. Oh, I get it now. This world is a dungeon, and the endless war zone between eternal Prussia and Little England most of all. We'd never be trying to make our way across this hell if any other options weren't worse. But dragons? I always got dragons. Dragons are essential. Dragons are rare. Everyone loves dragons. Until you meet one. It's all chlorine and cordite. A Prussian steel dragon. It's going to kill us all. My teleporter is charged. I'll do what I can. Angela, no! Sorry, Ash. Someone has to hurt it. Angela's feeling guilty and doing something reckless to overcompensate. To be fair, this is her fault. By the way, for those of you who may be just joining in, haven't been following along, Ash is the central character who's actually a guy, but in the fantasy world, since he made a female character as a female, so the narrator's voice is Ash. That's why I'm narrating it like a guy, but she speaks like a... So it's confusing. That's why. Anyways, carry on. We were sheltering in the shell of a castle when she spotted some fair gold. She went to grab it, and a Prussian mech patrol spotted her. We took them out, hoping we'd be quick enough to stop them calling for reinforcements. We failed. So now we have to fight a dragon. She's heard it. We can... Mistress, woe calling. Isabel, darling, something awful is about to happen to you and your little friends. If you owe me a favor, I'll spill the beans for... Just tell me. Barrage incoming. Take cover! Everyone dives to the ground. Except Chuck. Well, isn't this my lucky day? Uh-oh. It goes after Chuck as another barrage of God knows what hits. Lungfuls of gas, chaos, panic. Eyes burning. I've lost everyone. I am lost. Soul's eternal wisdom comes back to mind. Never split the party. Fair or foul? Well, most people count dictators as pretty foul. Understandably so, as I can render people emotional wrecks as easily as breathing. I'm Ash. I'm trying to get home. Aren't we all, ma'am? Master... Is it an elf, sir? No, it's not an elf. It's a lady. She's very beautiful, but she's not an elf. No offense, ma'am, but that's a shame. I always wanted to see an elf. Are the other fellows bearing up? They're quiet. They're sleeping. It's been a hard day for everyone. Good. I'd said I'd look after them, and the gaffer would have my guts for garters if I let them get hurt. We just have to hold out for spring. It'll be all over by spring. He dragged us to safety. He went back to the gas time and time again to save us all. His eyes went, and he was doing it by touch. He had no idea there was only a poor Mr. P left, and... Where's the rest of your unit? What are you doing here with just the 4 of you? It's the offensive. The big blasts clear the way, and us small groups sneak in. The way was meant to be clear. But the wire wasn't all cut. And there's the dragons with all the gas, and it didn't go well, ma'am. What are you doing here? In an evening dress? Have you got anyone waiting for you? I hope so. Little ones? No. That's a shame. Wait, was I reading the right? Did he... I can't tell who was... This is bad, by the way. I gotta stop. When you can't tell who's saying what because it's just 2 shadows and they're not distinct enough. I think Ash is on the right. But here's the problem. You flip down here. Because she's on the right here. Looks like that's her. Then I go to this, and now she's on the left. Sorry, it's an annoyance. That's bad. Comic editor should have stepped in. We've been trapped here by the Grandmaster. He challenged us to find a way home. Missions from a wizard? Always missions from a wizard, isn't it? Always the right thing to be done, and always the right thing to be done by you. It, tell the truth, is. Why lie now in a hole with a dead man? I wanted to be a father to mine, like my dad never got to be a chance to me. That's all me and the missus wanted. We exchanged rings, and I thought we'd get a chance to be happy. Always seemed to be too much fuss about these little things. When I got my own, that changed. I knew what it meant. I knew what it symbolized. I mean, I'm not a fool, but I didn't get how it would feel. The weight, the reminder. It's never invisible. It's always there. She's always there. Yeah, exactly. It was like that for me, too. You're not wearing a ring, ma'am. He coughs, and it sounds like his lungs may slide out of his throat. I'm not a healer, but my friends are out there. They may be able to help you. No, ma'am. There's no healing for the likes of me. High magic is for high folks, not the low folks. Bullshit. There's people waiting at home for all 4 of us. I need to get word to them. Can you write a message? I'm not going that way, I want to say. I have to go home too, I want to say. You're just a bunch of references. You're just a fucking bunch of references. But somehow, it doesn't matter. And I don't know why. Dearest Luthie, I thought I'd be the one to make it home. My great-great-great-grandfather went, and my great-great-grandfather, and all the way down the line. They went there, did their duty, and didn't come back again. I thought I would. Spring soon, they said. It'd be over and we'd go back west, where there's peace. This time we could make it. There's a poster, I need you. I was wrong. I'm sorry. I tried so hard to make it home. I couldn't have tried harder. I wanted nothing more to not be here. The others did well. They died quickly in peace. Send love to their loved ones. They were the best friends an Englander could have. I love you so much, but it wasn't enough. I'm sorry. I won't be there to be a father to Dolly and Sammy. Tell them everything. Tell them they were everything. When the time comes, don't let little Sammy come. These wizards and their schemes do not account for the likes of us. Or maybe they do. That would make it worse. It'll be over by spring, they said. But spring never comes. In a hole in the ground there died an Englander. Not a nice hole, but a nasty, dirty, wet hole. A charnel hole. You're him! Yes and no, Ash. Yes and no. There is no profit in being so literal here. I... Are you hurt? Yes, but not hurt. I can't explain. I can see the pieces. I see them better now than when I was a kid. He was an officer. Them, an idealized working class. That's all this is. I know it, but it's not. But it's like knowing dragons are just made of flesh and bone like everything else. It doesn't change the fact that there is a dragon, and we all char and crumble beneath its breast. Allegories are ugly, but poetry? Poetry is poetry, and war poetry most of all. This whole place is an orcish mockery of my elvish tale. This is not what I wanted. But still, I knew better men than I were dying on Flanders soil, and they should be remembered. I felt weird when I was a kid. I was meant to like the adventures and fighting, but I always liked the Hobbit chapters best. You're not entirely foul, Ash. Let me take this. Once more, I may have a way to get their message home. You're going out that way? Oh no. I am warden of this hell. I cannot leave. A problem. I need a solution. And this was always my favorite. The eagle, of course. So funny, interesting point here, since this is obviously J.R.R. Tolkien that meant to be. Where is it? Where does he say it? Okay, maybe I read, he says it, okay. he talked about allegories. This is allegories are ugly, but poetry is poetry. Okay, I was gonna. J.R.R. Tolkien is famous for stating that the Lord of the Rings is not an allegory, and I was thinking that Kieran Gillen was claiming that here he was stating the opposite, but I guess he really didn't. So that's keeping in line, I guess, for the character of Tolkien, who's not really a character, he's a real person. But sorry, moving along, just to being a Lord of the Rings dork. He gives the note to the eagle. The wind from the wings strokes my face. I stare for as long as I can. It's not long enough. There you are. The dragon's coming this way. Matt, look, it's... Are you hallucinating? I think I met the master of this realm. Enough. I said there's a dragon coming. We need to get out of here. Isabel took a hit. She's barely standing. Angela's out of gold for tricks. Chuck's luck only goes so far. None of us can do anything. We have to. If you were sad enough, you could kill it. Ash, you used the voice on me and... Listen. This one dragged all his friends into this hole in an attempt to save them. Went back into the gas again and again until his eyes ran down his cheeks like tears. Didn't make any difference. This one spent his dying breath writing a letter to his wife and kids, knowing he'd never have a chance to see them grow up. I don't know the other two. I'll never know them. None of them are ever going home. Do you think we're going home, Matt? Kill the dragon. Do you think I need the voice to make someone feel miserable here? Fucking hell. I'm sorry. I should have been quicker seeing the patrol. There was fair gold and... Can we save the excuses for one of us doesn't have a chunk of metal jutting out of them? We need to find somewhere safe. I have to settle my debts with the gods so they'll patch me up. And the only safe place nearby is Glasstown. We have to take a detour. Then this way, about 2 days. Matt, forget it. If I'm not sad here, something's wrong with me. I mean, we came to die when we were 16. We thought it was the worst thing imaginable. I come here and think, where would we have been if we were 16 in 1914? Who volunteers to come to a dungeon? Better people than us. Oh, something shoots the eagle. We got another messenger, sir. They won't sneak past us, that's for sure. Wonder what they're sending. Propaganda, no doubt. Sir, we're ready. Magnificent, you excellent men. Well, you know where you have to go. You can simply walk there. Wow. That was at least the good thing I can say is that was the best issue so far, in my opinion. First one that actually had some emotion and drama that I cared about, making the characters not just a bunch of assholes. I really like the story. At first I was like, man, Tolkien being thrown in here is really, that's dangerous. First you're doing a story of characters getting trapped into a D&D game, and now you're throwing Tolkien into it. But they did it pretty well. And again, you saw that part where I was like, wait a second, they did the allegory. And I was like, oh, okay, he didn't. So I enjoyed that. Some interesting. I think the writing. Oh man, there was that one bit where the artist like flip flop the characters. I was like, that is not that's not what you do. I think the writing is decent and there's good ideas in here, but the actual storytelling portion is a little raw. This is where I've not been attracted to Kieran Gillen's work in the past. You know, it's like when the whole dragon thing, I like the buildup of the story. You know, he's the grief knight, so he gains power by being sad. And, you know, Ash has got the power where she's the dictator, so she can make people feel and believe things based on the power of the words, but, you know, he doesn't want her to use the power on him. And, you know, there's that whole ethic thing. But she doesn't need to in this case because we've witnessed the story of these tragic soldiers already. And so she just tells it to him. And I was like, this is a pretty cool buildup. I like how that works. And then the fight with the dragon is like 2 panels. You just see him like holding up a sword, and you see like the head chopped. And I'm like, that's not a payoff. Like, this is comic books. Comic books. Give us a whole page of, you know, some cool action scenes with beautiful art of a dude fighting the dragon. Epic. Not just, oh yeah, and the dragon loses. Like, I think that's a big problem in modern writers today is like, they don't think about that. They don't think like action writers. They just think of character drama and dialogue. And it's every scene is a scene of dialogue over and over again. And while Kieran Gillen's not the worst, you can see that here, and it's making me feel unsatisfied. So, but this is, like I said, this is my favorite issue so far, so that's a good sign if it's on an upward trajectory. I don't know what you guys thought. You guys aren't very expressive in your views on these books, so I don't really know. I get that it's hard to type it out. You can't be like me very easily, just spewing a bunch of words into a microphone. But, you know, if you have a moment, especially if you're on a phone, I get that's even harder to type out stuff. So try to be understanding. But it would be nice to know some of your thoughts as we wind down to the end of the stream. Gotta switch over. So, what are you guys thinking? Let's see. Dragon Ball says, the death of Captain America was worth $10 to me for the hardcover graphic novel. The death of Captain America? Was the actual death where he didn't really die because no one ever dies in Marvel? Or the real death where Marvel decided to make Captain America Nazi and kill him in the hearts and minds of every Marvel fan? Hopefully it's the former, not the latter. Let's see. Dragon Ball says, hit like I'm number 4. I don't know what that means. Smoking a joint? I do know what that means. Ronnie says, an orcish warping of my elven tale. Interesting viewpoint about D&D. Well, D&D, I think the reference there is that D&D was, I don't want to say stolen from J.R. Tolkien because obviously he didn't invent it, but the world of D&D was ripped out of the pages of Tolkien's fantasy works, right? So they kind of go hand in hand in some ways. So Eric says, I'm thinking I could have been in REM sleep by now. You could have, Eric, and you'd probably feel a lot more satisfied than being here nagging me. But I don't know. That's your life, and I don't have anything witty to say, so I felt like I just fell flat there at the end. It's not even midnight here yet, so I did pretty good time trying to keep these streams down to less than 2 hours. I want to give you guys who are all remaining my thank you to each and every one of you, those in chat, those who are not speaking in chat. That's all fine. I appreciate seeing those numbers, knowing that there's actually people listening that actually care. I don't do this. I don't make any money. I couldn't make any money on it. But that's not really why I do it. This is sort of my way of sharing a hobby that I love. I love comics. I love writing. I like comic fans, and getting here to chat with you guys. It's just a lot of fun. I look forward to it 3 nights a week, and I like reading these new books. I like talking about them. Sometimes I like reading old books. This Die series is going to go on for 5 total issues, so there's 2 more. So it'll be Tuesday and Thursday. And the opening books will be probably Batman and Superman, because we kind of fell behind on those. So I'm just keeping reading those digital firsts. They seem to be relatively popular. And then I'm still looking forward to another series. I do want to do Batman Year One at some point, but I want to make sure I do it at a time where I get my best crowd, just because that's a book that really means something to me. So I want to make sure, I do it with the most possible people listening and enjoying it. This book, Die, by the way, you can get the first issue for free on Comixology. No strings attached. So if you missed part of the story, if you didn't see that first episode and you want to follow along, get it there. Or if you just want to read it yourself and not have to hear my voice in your head reading it poorly sometimes, do it. Or just because you want to revisit, whatever. Just FYI, most Image books, at least right now, most Image books, the first issue is free. So if there are any books out there by Image that you're curious about, go look it up on Comixology. There's a very good chance, especially if it's not a brand new series, that it's free. Die is pretty recently new. I think Die came out this year, I want to say. So check it out. There's some really good stuff. I really recommend Birthright and Oblivion Song. Those are my 2 favorite books, probably in total right now. Like even above Hawkman, and Hawkman's pretty damn good, and Daredevil. But I think that's all I have to do for tonight. Let's see. Eric says, "But I'm here for you, pal. Your voice is competing with all the other ones in my head." I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing. But speaking of comics, I think I'm gonna go. I've been trying to catch up on Birthright because I let it slide, and I don't know why I do that. I'm this weird. I have this weird, really weird problem of procrastination that's beyond like just normal procrastination. I don't know how to explain it. Even things that I like doing, like reading my favorite comic book, I'll put it aside, and I can go months, and not read it. And I'll look at it and go, "Oh yeah, I love that book," and then I just don't pick it up. But once I do pick it up and start reading it, then I can't stop. So I recently finished up Oblivion Song, which I was behind on. Man. And then I sit here and talk to you guys about it and go, "How did I do this? These are so amazing." Oblivion Song is ridiculously good. They're turning that into... Actually, both of these books have got deals. Birthright is being developed into a movie. I can't remember if Oblivion Song is a TV show or a movie. I think I heard it was going to be a movie, which it could be good. Good in the sense that it'll probably have the better production values that it needs, but bad in the sense that, Oblivion Song is this really long tale that needs a lot of breathing room. And I think would do amazing as a high quality, like a higher end TV show. Think of some of, I was about to say Game of Thrones, but that's kind of at the top end of the spectrum. Think of some of the better decent production values. Like Umbrella Academy is pretty well done. Something like a Netflix or HBO do like 10 or 12 episode seasons. You could do these arcs. Oblivion Song's got so many twists and turns and reveals. It would work great for a TV series and just have cliffhangers at the end. Whereas Birthright, which by the way, I'm really sad. Birthright, I just found out, is ending at issue 50. And the good news is it's going to end on its own terms. And Josh Williamson has stated multiple times, that he's had an end for the series since the beginning. He knows where it's going. And that's why I think it could be probably it's good news. It's a movie because you just tell the 3 acts and you can condense it all down. But anyways, Eric says, good night, kids. That's my cue to also say goodnight. See you tomorrow for We Got Issues on I Love Comics, 10 o'clock Eastern, cheap plug. I'm not allowed to plug over there, but they send Eric over here to plug for them because that's the way they roll. I might be over there. Wait, tomorrow is Monday? Huh, yeah. Maybe one day they'll invite me on We Got Issues. That'd be fun. Cheap cheap dig there, Eric. Good night. I'm just babbling now. I don't like to end, but I realize I have to. So